Well, this is a series now. Shit. So, Smash Bros. Is a lot of stages that you can play on, sometimes throughout all the games, or sometimes just that one game. I'm looking at you, Icicle Mountain fans. However, there will sometimes be stages that will only be available through certain modes, whether it be the Mushroom Kingdom layout in Adventure mode, the Mid-Air Stadium from Brawl, the multiple subspace layouts whenever you fight the dark versions of characters, I think, and everyone's favorite, the trophies in Melee. What? Who wouldn't want to fight on a Goomba? But across all these stages that are non-playable, there's been one stage that seems to be the more popular pick amongst the others. A stage that's fairly liked to many fans, and often asks the question of whether or not it could even come back in the next Smash game or any future Smash game in general. The stage in question I'm referring to is, of course, Meta Crystal. Now, this stage is pretty interesting to me, because not only is it one of the very few stages in Smash Bros. That is only playable through a certain mode, in this case Classic mode, but it's also one where people tend to clamor that they'd like to see it make a return as an official stage. Whether or not it be the same layout before or something expanded upon is to be seen, or if it'll even happen at all in the first place. But regardless, it seems to me that Meta Crystal seems to be an unexpected fan favorite, but I'm not sure if fanfare is putting it in lightly. It's just that a lot of people really like the idea of Meta Crystal, but why is that? What makes this one-player stage so special to many, and why has it been included in so many other fan projects like Project Plus? In this video, we're going to be talking about Meta Crystal, its origins and how it plays, and not only determine what makes it so special to many players, but also if it even has a shot in getting into the next Smash Bros. Game, if ever. There's a lot that goes into that more specifically, but we'll get there as time goes on. Anyway, without further ado, let's get started. When it comes to the origin of Meta Crystal, I would argue it's one of the most interesting cases of a stage I've seen yet. Well, for a one-player stage, that is. And luckily for me this time, there is an actual source to it, it's not just, I just had a weird dream about it happen one day. So basically, this stage is loosely based on the Super Mario 64 level, Cavern of the Metal Cap, a level that's only accessible through Hazy Maze Cave. Now in the original game, this obviously houses the Metal Cap power-up that Mario can wear in certain levels of Mario 64. And the area itself, while sharing most of its assets from Hazy Maze Cave, obviously, has certain crystals that popped in as you approach the, I suppose, dead end of the level, which is most likely where these crystals come into play in the stage itself. Although it's based on Caverns of the Metal Cap, it seems to be more loosely inspired, as aside from the crystals themselves, and I suppose the layout itself being reminiscent of Hazy Maze Cave to an extent, the stage only goes as far as there, as the rest of it is mostly original. But despite this stage originating from a Mario 64 level, it's classified as a Smash original stage. Or at least in 64's case, it's classified as Metal Mario stage. We'll touch upon this guy a bit later, but yeah. Now, Smash Bros. Isn't too unfamiliar with having certain elements be original from sources that aren't from within Smash itself, like for example, Giga Bowser. Giga Bowser originated in Smash Melee and is classified as a Smash original concept, because Bowser doesn't actually do this in the Mario series. Fury Bowser doesn't count, shut up. And there are other examples as well that takes more or less inspiration from certain character personalities and such. You know, like everyone's favorite, Negative Zone. This will have its own dedicated video at some point in the future. Trust me, it is worth talking about. But for now, let's focus back on Meta Crystal, because that stage is more important to this video than Giga Bowser or Luigi's Depression. That sounds so bad. Now, generally speaking, I find the inspiration for this stage to be very interesting. I mean, of all stages in Mario 64, Cavern of the Metal Cap is probably one of the last ones I'd ever think of, but I don't know. I think it's kind of unique, and I like it a bit. The main platform at the very least takes a lot of inspiration from the original source, so I appreciate that a lot and it gives it a very unique feel. The background on the other hand is, well, it's a Smash 64 background. There's not much you could really do or say about them than just oh, this is neat, or oh, this is okay. This one more or less emphasizes the crystal in the name, so it's suitable enough. Obviously, if this were to come back as an actual stage, I can kinda see one or two things happening for it, but that's a thing that we'll save for much, much later. For now, let's focus back onto the stage and finally talk about its layout. Or I guess, everything else that comes with Metacrystal. Now, this aspect of the stage is something that I'm often curious about, because it's one that I often hear people give praise on, but what makes it so special? Well, when looking at the layout, we have essentially two platforms. The top one is a standard platform, but the other one, the main platform, is a little bit more interesting. The left and right of the platforms are a bit more slanted, with the left one going downward and the right one going upward. This all seems kind of interesting, and I did hear some people give praise for the layout itself, which, fair enough. I do like me a stage that's not really traditional in the same sense as Smashville or Battlefield or Small Battlefield. I like a stage that's more unique and has a, unique feel to it. However, the stage is relatively small, so it's not really good for multiplayer fighting, I'd imagine. But there is a reason as to why it's made small. It is to accommodate the game's boss, at least in 64, Metal Mario. Metal Mario himself is an interesting case of a boss character because he's just Mario, but encased in metal, and is a lot more powerful, being in the metal box and all. However, he does come with the sacrifice that he has pretty terrible recovery, which makes him very exploitable. Like, you can try your best and throw him off the edge and he would not recover to save his life. Oh hey, that's like Little Knife. Although I think it only applies to certain characters because there are others that have throws that probably wouldn't work as well for Metal Mario. So there's that to consider at the very least. Still, I think it's pretty cool to have Metal Mario's stage be Meta Cavern, as the entirety of it was specifically made just for this boss fight. And of course, Metal Mario, or I guess rather the Metal Box, will become a staple in Smash Bros.'s boss fights as the series goes on. But the stage associated with Metal Mario is forever lost to time in one single classic mode in Smash 64. But what if this stage has a shot of coming back? Even though Metacrystal has only appeared in one Smash game and is exclusive to a single player campaign, a lot of fans have taken a real good liking to the stage overall. To the point where, if possible, fans can recreate the entire stage in many different ways. This ranges from stage builder, to mods, to even fan projects, the most prominent of which is, of course, the Project M version, which, in addition to being resized so that more players can fight on the stage, it also has a complete appearance overhaul, making it much closer to its Hazy Maze Cave and Metal Cap course inspiration. This is without a doubt one of my favorite interpretations of Metacrystal, and it praise. Oh great Sakurai, please let us have Metacrystal reappear in a Smash Bros game. Anyway, it plays pretty well, and I really like the stage overall. But with all that being said, this only leaves the fans with one simple question, if we're putting aside mods, fan projects, and even some custom stage interpretations. Will this stage ever appear in an official Smash Bros. Game as a multiplayer stage? The answer to that is obviously uncertain, because even I don't know if that's even possible, but I'll at least share my 2 cents on the matter. The answer to that question may seem like a no from a glance, because as cool of an idea it is to have Metacrystal be playable in any capacity in an official title, this and a couple other stages kinda suffer from being restricted to one specific mode in every Smash game, and more or less serve that purpose just for the sake of it. A lot of these stages just kinda serve the purpose of being battle arenas for a specific mode, and that's all there is to them. Not to say they wouldn't be cool additions, but most of the time they're just simply reskins or similar ideas being passed around through pre-existing stages. Like, as cool of a stage as it is, Midair Stadium is basically just Pokemon Stadium 2, but they made it a little bit longer. But something about Metacrystal seems to speak out to people a lot more than just those stages in general. And this leads me to a bit of a counterpoint for that initial question. You may say no because it's a stage that's only exclusive to a single player campaign, but you know what else had that? Battlefield and Final Destination. To refresh your memory for a bit, Battlefield and Final Destination weren't always playable from the very start of the series. In fact, they were never really playable at all in the first game. The dual zone is a bit of an odd one, but it's basically just Battlefield. It's the earliest example that we have of Battlefield. And of course, the fight against Master Hand is set on Final Destination, or as the game would refer to it as, Master Hand's Domain. A pretty interesting name overall, but that's besides the point. The point being is that Battlefield and Final Destination weren't initially playable from the very start of the series, but starting with Melee, they would finally become playable. Although in that game they were more or less unlockable stages, but with Brawl onward they became starter stages, and the rest is history there. So it's not too unlikely that Metacrystal may share the same fate as Battlefield and Final Destination, but it's really hard to say, and honestly, as much as I would love to have Metacrystal be playable in any capacity in an official Smash Bros. Game, I'm not sure how likely that would be. I'm sure the devs may or may not be aware of how popular this stage has been, for a stage that's only intended for you to fight against a mellow version of Mario, but I'm not really too confident on them ever adding this stage at all. But if this stage ever does come to the Smash series as a full-on playable stage in the same likes of Battlefield and Final Destination, maybe not starter stages, but maybe an unlockable as a reward for something, I'd imagine they would do a little bit to make the stage a lot more interesting, or tweak some things about it that didn't work before, such as the size, which would go from small to medium, if I were to guess. I mean, hell, maybe they'll even change the stage's layout entirely. Again, it's really hard to say for the matter. I'm just here to share my 2 cents, so I guess I might as well sum it up right now. Even though I think it would be really cool to have Metacrystal reappear as, well, a general multiplayer stage, I don't think that's gonna be likely, at least not for some time. And if the next Smash game does have Metacrystal show up as a stage you could play on, as a starter or unlockable, well, color me surprised. For now, the most we can settle on with Metacrystal in terms of playability for multiplayer would just be to look at sources like fan games, mods, the likes. Or you can make your own Metacrystal and stage builder. But with all that being said, I think this concludes our video. To be honest, I wasn't expecting to make another stage-related analysis so soon, but the idea of Metacrystal really just popped into my head and I wanted to talk about it in some capacity. So at the very least, I hope you enjoyed that video. In terms of the next stage I want to look at, I kind of feel like I wanted to talk about one of the bad stages, but probably not ones like 75 meters. I would trash talk about it, but let's be honest, we all know how that would end, so I'd rather pick a stage that's a little bit more interesting. Who knows? But in any regard, I'd like to thank you all for watching again. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Metacrystal, and if you think this stage should deserve a spot in the next Smash game, or if it'll just remain in 64 hell. And as always, remember that no matter where you go, or where you're at, Metal Mario will always be watching. Stu cares about you. Yeah. I'm not saying that because Metal Mario is in my house right now. What makes you say that?